Sometimes in life, a person comes from a place no one expects and does something that surprises the whole world. A person who was not born a hero, not trained as a warrior, not raised to lead. But when the time came, they stood up, they spoke out, and they refused to step back. This is the story of Volodymyr Zelensky, not just a president, not just a politician, but a man who reminded the world what courage looks like. In the most difficult moment of his country's history, Zelensky's story doesn't begin in a palace or in power. It begins in a quiet corner of the world, in a city called Kryvyi Rih, in Ukraine. He was born in 1978 and grew up in a working-class family. His parents were intelligent and hard-working, his father a professor, his mother an engineer, but they lived a simple life. As a child, Zelensky was shy. He loved comedy, acting, and words. He wasn't loud, but he was observant. He saw things, he listened, he learned. He didn't dream of becoming a soldier or a president. He dreamed of making people laugh. In school, he worked hard. He studied English. He joined theater groups. His English wasn't perfect, but he practiced. He believed that if you keep trying, you keep growing. And that's a lesson right there for every English learner. You don't need to speak perfectly. You just need to speak bravely. Zelensky knew this even then. He didn't wait to be perfect. He acted in plays, joined debates, and stood on stages even when he was nervous. He discovered that language, especially English, was a door to opportunity. It helped him understand global ideas, connect with others, and dream bigger. After school, Zelensky didn't study politics. He studied law. But something inside him pulled him toward entertainment, storytelling, performance, human connection, and that's what he did. He became a comedian. Now, for most people, comedy is just laughter. But for Zelensky, comedy was a way to tell the truth, softly, cleverly, bravely. He created shows that made people think, not just laugh. His most famous role was in a TV show, Servant of the People. In that show, he played an ordinary schoolteacher who suddenly becomes president, not because he wanted power, but because he stood up against corruption. It was meant to be a joke, but life had different plans. In 2019, after years of frustration with real politicians, the people of Ukraine did something no one expected. They voted for the man who played the president on TV to be their real president. Zelensky, the comedian, the outsider, became the actual leader of a nation. People laughed. Some said he wouldn't last. Some called him weak or unprepared. But Zelensky didn't laugh back. He worked. He studied policy. He gave speeches. He visited towns and villages. He listened to the people who voted for him. And even those who didn't. He made mistakes. But he learned. And day by day, he grew into the role. He believed that leadership was not about being above others. It was about standing beside them. Then came the storm. In 2022, the peace was broken. Russia invaded Ukraine, a powerful country attacking a smaller one. It was a moment that shook the world. And here was Zelensky, a former comedian, now president, with a choice: run and save himself, or stay and fight for his people. And he stayed. When foreign countries offered to fly him to safety, he answered with words that will be remembered forever. I need ammunition, not a ride. That one sentence, a simple, clear, powerful, showed the heart of a real leader. That sentence is also a perfect lesson in English. It's short, but full of emotion, strong, but easy to understand. That's what you should aim for in your own learning, clear and meaningful expression. From that moment, Zelensky became more than a leader. He became a voice, a symbol, a light in the darkness. Every night, while bombs fell and fear grew, he went on camera and spoke to his people. In a dark green shirt, with no suit, no fancy stage, just honesty. He said things like, "We will not give up. We are defending our home. We are fighting for freedom." He spoke in Ukrainian. He spoke in English. He spoke to the world. And here's something important. His English was not perfect, but it didn't matter. His message was strong. His emotion was real. And the world listened. For English learners, this is one of the greatest lessons. You don't need to sound like a native speaker to be heard. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to be honest, clear, and brave. Zelensky didn't win respect because of his accent. He won it because of his heart. While the world watched, this man, who once told jokes on stage, was now standing in the middle of a war zone, leading a country that refused to surrender. He didn't hide. He walked the streets. He met with soldiers. He hugged children. He buried the dead. He cried. He smiled. He stayed. And in doing so, he reminded the world of something it had forgotten. That courage is not about shouting the loudest. It's about standing your ground when it would be easier to run. It's about doing what's right, not what's easy. And it's about using your voice, even when it shakes. That's something you can use in your life, right now. Whether you're in a classroom, on a stage, or sitting alone with a dream in your heart. As the war continued, the days grew darker. Cities were bombed, families were broken, lives were lost. But still, Zelensky did not leave. Every day, he woke up in the same city where missiles could fall at any moment. And every day, he spoke to the people, not just in Ukraine, but around the world. His speeches reached presidents, students, workers, and millions of ordinary people who had never heard of him before. He spoke to governments, to news channels, to the people watching on their phones. And what he said was always simple, honest, and real. No long speeches with difficult words, no political games, just truth. He said, "We are fighting not just for Ukraine, but for freedom." He said, "We want peace, but we will not give up our country." He said, "Our strength is in our unity. Our weapon is our courage." These sentences are short, but they are strong. That's the power of communication. That's the kind of English that matters. Not just big words, but true words. Zelensky became more than a leader of his people. He became a teacher of resilience, a model of clarity, a reminder that real power is not in weapons, but in words, in ideas, in heart. People all over the world began to admire him, not because he was perfect, but because he was human. He was tired, he was worried, but he kept showing up. And that is something all of us can learn. Maybe you are trying to improve your English. Maybe you feel like you are slow, or not good enough, or that no one sees your effort. But just like Zelensky, you don't have to be perfect to make a difference. You just have to keep showing up. You just have to keep speaking. You just have to keep standing for what you believe in. Zelensky made videos not in a suit, but in a simple shirt. He didn't try to look powerful. He tried to be present. That made him even more powerful, because people believed him, they felt him, they trusted him. And that's something important for anyone learning to speak English. Your clothes, your accent, your background. These things are not what make you strong. What makes you strong is your voice, your message, your truth. Zelensky's English was not always perfect, but it was always honest. And that is why it worked. This is why his story is not just political. It's personal. Because it shows us what is possible when someone ordinary does something extraordinary with courage, consistency, and communication. He held meetings with leaders from around the world. He addressed the United Nations, the US Congress, the British Parliament, and more. Often, he spoke in English, sometimes with help, but always from the heart. He didn't hide his emotion. He let people see his sadness, his fear, and his hope. He said things like, "Every night is a nightmare, but we keep going. We are fighting for our children, our future. We will win, because we are free in our hearts." These are not complex sentences, but they are unforgettable. That's a lesson in English right there. You don't need to impress with big vocabulary. You need to express with clarity. And that's exactly what he did. Young people from every continent started to listen to him, not just because of the war, but because of how he spoke. Calm, strong, honest. Even language teachers began using his speeches in classrooms, not because he spoke like a textbook, but because he spoke like a real human being. If you are learning English, here's a tip. Take one of his speeches, listen to it slowly, pause, repeat, write down what you hear. Try to say it yourself. Feel the rhythm, feel the message. This is called shadowing, and it's one of the most powerful tools for learning natural English. When you do this, you are not just learning words, you are learning voice, you are learning confidence. Now let's talk about another side of Zelensky, his leadership during the hardest times. When the country was under attack, many people were scared. Some wanted to leave, some didn't know what to do. But when they saw their leader staying, they found strength. Zelensky didn't ask others to be brave while he hid. He was brave with them. That is leadership. He went to hospitals to meet wounded soldiers. He visited homes that were destroyed. He hugged mothers who had lost their children. He stood beside people who had lost everything. And still, he smiled. Not because everything was okay, but to give others hope. That's another lesson for life. And for English learners too. Sometimes, even when things are hard, we must keep our voice steady. We must share light, even when we feel darkness. Zelensky did that, not just with speeches, but with presence. Not just with ideas, but with action. And the world saw it. People in faraway countries who never knew much about Ukraine now had a face, a voice, and a story to connect with. They saw a leader who led with heart, not ego. This made him one of the most respected figures in the world, and not because of political experience, but because of emotional truth. He showed that courage can be quiet, that leadership can be humble, that real communication is not about sounding smart. It's about being real. There are many kinds of leaders in the world. Some lead with fear, some lead with power, but the leaders we remember the most are the ones who lead with heart. Volodymyr Zelensky never asked to be a hero. He never planned to be a wartime president. But when the time came, he answered the call with bravery, with words, with presence. Every speech he gave, every video he shared, was not just about war. It was about human strength, about staying calm in chaos, about standing up when the ground shakes under your feet. And isn't that what learning English feels like sometimes? Maybe you're scared to speak, maybe you feel weak, maybe the words don't come out right, but still, you try. You keep going. That's courage. That's what Zelensky teaches us, even without saying it. He once said in a speech, "We are all simple people who want to live our lives. We are not afraid." That sentence, "we are not afraid," is short, but when he said it, people believed him, not because he had an army behind him, but because he had truth inside him. This is something all learners of English, of life, of anything, can remember. It's okay to be simple, as long as you are sincere. When you speak English, don't try to copy someone else. Don't try to sound perfect. Try to sound honest. Try to sound like you. That is what Zelensky did, and that's why people listened. He didn't use long or fancy sentences. He used real words. Words like peace, freedom, strength, family, home, truth. These are the words that move people. These are the words that stay in our hearts. If you want to learn English, start with these kinds of words. Learn how to use them. Speak them in your own way. Build your voice from what you care about, not just what the textbook tells you. Now let's look at another important part of Zelensky's journey: belief. Even when things were falling apart, he believed in his people. He believed in their will to fight, to survive, to rebuild. He didn't say, "I will save you." He said, "We will save each other." That is true leadership. And that's also a message for you, the learner. No teacher can make you fluent. No app can do it alone. You must believe in yourself and take action every day, even if it's small. Believe that your voice matters. Believe that your English is improving, little by little. Believe that you can connect with the world, because you can. Zelensky didn't fight alone. He gathered support from around the world. Through speeches, interviews, and powerful communication, he showed the world what was happening in Ukraine, not just with statistics, but with stories. He told the story of a mother hiding in a basement with her children. He told the story of an old man protecting his village with nothing but courage. He told the story of people who lost their homes but still smiled. That's how he moved hearts. And that's how you can move people too, through stories. If you want to improve your English, learn to tell your story. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be yours. Say, "I remember my first English word. I used to be shy, but now I speak more. I want to speak English to meet people from the world." These stories are simple, but they are powerful, because they are real. And language becomes stronger when it's personal. Let's not forget, Zelensky was once a student just like you. He studied English too. He learned it slowly, step by step. But he used it to open doors, to build bridges, to give speeches that moved the world. You can do that too. Not in the same way, not on the same stage, but in your own life, in your own space. You can speak English to build confidence, to share your truth, to help others, just like him. And most of all, Zelensky taught us something very important, that one voice, even in the middle of fear, can be louder than 1,000 guns. He proved that leadership doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being clear, kind, and committed. And English learning is the same. You don't have to speak fast. You don't have to use big words. You just need to speak clearly, kindly, and with commitment, day by day, word by word. That's how fluency is built. That's how strength is shown. Zelensky's speeches are now studied in universities, language classes, and leadership courses, not because he had perfect grammar, but because he had perfect presence. He stood where it was hard to stand. He spoke when it was hard to speak. He stayed when others would have left. And that's why we remember him. He turned fear into focus. He turned silence into speech. He turned a small voice into a global message. And if he can do that, from a small city in Ukraine, with simple beginnings, then you, too, can rise. You, too, can grow. You, too, can build a voice that touches others. As the war continued, something beautiful happened, not only inside Ukraine, but around the world. People began to see something they had forgotten. What real leadership was like. It is not just standing at a podium. It is standing in the middle of the people. It is not just giving orders. It is listening first. It is not just speaking loud. It is speaking from the heart. Volodymyr Zelensky did not become a hero because he was perfect. He became a hero because he was present. He didn't pretend to be someone else. He became more of who he already was, a man of the people, a voice for the voiceless. And that is a powerful lesson, not just for politics or for war, but for life itself. You don't have to be someone else to be strong. You don't have to be famous to make a difference. You don't have to wait for the right moment to be brave. Sometimes, the most powerful people are the quiet ones who simply do not quit. And that is what Zelensky showed us, day after day, night after night. While others doubted, he stayed. While others feared, he spoke. While others watched, he acted. He reminded the world that strength is not about muscle. It is about meaning. It is about purpose. It is about truth. It is about standing for something when it matters most. And the amazing thing is, this strength is not something only he has. It is something that lives inside you too. Maybe your battle is not a war. Maybe your fight is to learn, to speak, to grow, to believe. But it is still a battle, and your courage still matters. Maybe you are sitting alone, with a book or a screen, trying to understand a new word. Maybe you are afraid to speak in class or online. Maybe you think you will never be fluent, never be good enough, never feel ready. But remember this, Zelensky was once a student. He was once afraid too. He was once told he wasn't strong enough, smart enough, serious enough. And yet, here he is. A man who inspired millions, not because of power, but because of presence. And you, too, can become someone who inspires. Maybe not millions, maybe just one person, but that's enough. Because changing one life is how the world begins to change. You are learning English. That is already brave. You are trying to improve. That is already powerful. You are here, right now, still moving forward. And that is already success. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to feel perfect. Speak anyway. Try anyway. Learn anyway. Zelensky stood on stages and in streets. You can stand in your own space, with your own voice. He spoke in simple words that reached hearts. You can do the same. In your own life, in your own way. He believed in his people. Now you must believe in yourself. Every small step you take, reading one line, writing one sentence, listening to one story, is a brick in the foundation of your future. Build it strong, build it slowly, but build it every day. And now, as we reach the end of this story, I want you to carry one thing in your heart. Your voice matters. Your learning matters. Your dream matters. If Zelensky could rise from a simple life to become a symbol of strength, then you can rise too. from wherever you are. You have the light, you have the will, you have the reason. So keep learning, keep speaking, keep becoming. And if this story touched you, if it helped you see the beauty of your journey, if it reminded you that you're not alone, then I invite you to do one small thing. Subscribe to this channel, because this is not just a channel. It's a place to grow. It's a place to learn English with heart, with hope, and with real meaning. It's a place where stories lift us, where language empowers us, and where we remind each other to never give up. So let's walk this path together.